I looked at him, and I've had one moment like this before in my life with him. And I said to him, that was God. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, that was God. That was God showing up in the moment and saying, what we're doing here is authentic. What we're doing right here is valuable. What we're doing here is true. And he had a smile on his face, and it hit home.
Hello and welcome to the Time Has Come podcast. My name is Wardle, and this is my first live recording of the podcast with my audience and paying members on timehascome.com. I'm very excited to be sharing this episode with you today with my friend Engel Pherecydes. Engel was on the podcast many years ago. We had a great conversation. I came on his podcast as well, and we talked about God. Engel is a Pranayama teacher, which is similar to Breathwork. If you've never heard of it, we're going to talk a lot about it, but I'm sure many of you have heard of breathwork. We all breathe every day, but breathwork is something that I have been getting into, and I see tremendous benefits. So we're going to be talking about that, diving into it today, and really exploring how simple practice and practical tools can help you in your life and overcome a lot of the challenges that we face in the day-to-day, bring you back to this present moment. So for those of you who aren't aware of who Engel is a spiritual teacher. He is a dedicated yogi specializing in the science of pranayama and yogic philosophy. He is also born with an intuitive gift for the Vedic knowledge and has dedicated his life to sharing this ancient wisdom, which I think is fantastic. And I'm very grateful to be talking with him today. He is a devoted husband and father of 3 boys. Engel brings a compassionate and thoughtful approach to his classes, yoga therapy sessions, and teachings, and he fosters a welcoming and inclusive environment for all students of all levels and all ages. He lives in Qualicum Beach, and he also goes to Bali back and forth. At Qualicum Beach is in Canada. Engel is the founder of Pranayama Sadhana, the school for pranic studies, and he's the co-owner of Yoga Grace Studios in Qualicum Beach, which is where I met Engel. So, Engel Pherecydes, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Thanks for being here, man. So I met you back in Qualicum Beach in 2020, and I want to share a fun story with everybody just to kick this podcast off. We were doing a long breathwork session. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 hours. And I love the long breathwork sessions, and I get really into them. And I was in the middle of it, and I was breathing deep, and the music's pumping, and I love the music you choose because it gets you in that dreamlike state, but it really helps. And I was in this beautiful, floaty, dreamlike state, just out of it. And I think I probably stopped the breathing pattern that you had suggested we all follow. And you came over to me and you whispered in my ear and you told me a joke, or you said something. I can't even remember what it was, but you made me burst out laughing. And it stuck with me. And it's an approach of how you show up in your life. It's also how you show up in your work. And I love that humor. You bring humor to the world and also to your work too. So for everybody watching, I want to start there. I want to start why you feel humor is an important aspect of all that you do with yoga and pranayama and breath work.
You know what? Just to soften the heart and soften the mind. We are plagued by the difficulties of our own life. It's not easy. Like, life is not easy. We're faced with the difficulties of financial constraints. We're faced with the difficulties, if we have kids, with time constraints. We are faced with the difficulties of our status and identity, which we pride so much. And if I can bring a little bit of humor, I personally believe it just drops the guard. It helps drop the guard, and especially in something like that where we are kind of pushing the world away and going with it, retreating within ourselves, like in a meditation process. Sometimes we can get a little serious because we're just exerting this effort, especially in a 3-hour, that's a long austerity, a long form practice. So if I can lighten the journey that you're on and keep you back in your heart. And I know that's something that's really important for you, being in your heart and speaking from your heart and living from your heart. So the laughter, the joke is to come in and soften everything.
I love that, man. So in your work with people, I'm assuming you see a lot of people come into your studio there that are struggling, that are tense, that are tight. There's a lot going on in the world today. And I wanted to start with asking you about how pranayama, and we should talk about the difference between pranayama and breathwork as well. But I want to ask you about how you support people in lightening the load and how breathwork can help that with all the pressures and the trauma and the things that are going on in this world today. That we're exposed to through the news and through media, and it's weighing on a lot of people, like you said, with financial issues or different social issues that they have. How do you support people in the day-to-day with processing that, and how does breathwork or pranayama specifically support people in that?
Thank you for that. I think the biggest thing is everyone is, even people who are value some form of transparency in their life. People are generally pretty guarded. So no one's ever going to wear generally their heart on their sleeve, meaning like what is really plaguing you? Like what brought you to the studio today? Why are you here? Like we all we approach our spiritual path because something's going on in our lives. Like either we are not feeling calm and centered and peaceful. There's a health scare, a diagnosis scare, a financial scare. Maybe our child is on a path that is concerning us. Maybe we went through a breakup. Maybe we're going through a separation. You know, there's so many things that are going on in people's lives. And for me personally, what I do is I look into people's eyes. That's the big one, because over the years, I've learned that we wear so much on our face, but you can see through a person's eyes what's going on. And I just hold space for that. And I just know over the years, I've learned that in time, if I can create a safe enough space that feels comfortable, and I know in the back of my head, what is the safest space for a person in their life? And it's their house. Where a person goes to bed at night is the safest place. So if I can try to create a safe atmosphere that feels like they're at home, they're in a place where they can kind of let that guard down, I know over time they'll ask questions. They'll say, hey, that class was really great. This is going on in my life. Do you have a minute? And that's when I know that it's respectful and responsible of me to then speak to that instead of really try to force it out of them, you know?
I like that, dude. How do you create that because I notice you do that in your everyday life too. Even, you know, when I'd see you at the coffee shop or whatever, in Qualicum Beach there, you'd be chatting with people. I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, you try and create that home-like space, that comfortable space, even when you're talking with people in public. That's sort of an approach that you have. Is that sort of like a choice you make consciously every day? Is like, when I meet with people, when I talk with them, I'm going to create a safe kind of container or environment or allow them to feel safe.
Yeah. Perhaps that stems from not feeling safe growing up myself. I was thinking about that. I actually spoke about that recently in a class where a lot of the things we do stem from what we didn't have in our past. Right. So for me, like I didn't have a mentor that could create a space for me that made me feel safe, and I didn't have environments or people that could facilitate out of me the courage to truly get on my path. So there was a bit of a delay. And I think we all have the dark ages of our life where we are kind of doing things. Usually it's social related. Like how can I build in the social hierarchy? Right. And I do that. Yeah. Like I go out of my way when I'm out in public to really make people feel comfortable. It is draining though, I must say, because I would say it's not disingenuous that I'm there trying to create a safe space for people, but it's like energetically, it's an output. Like I think that's because of the background awareness of how much we are plagued by our difficulties. Like, you know, you look at the statistics, like men, like 3 times more likely to commit suicide than women. So as I go around, you know, you see a man and he won't put on this, he won't share what's honestly going on in his heart. And, you know, not many people are going, I mean, is it even the right thing to do to just blurt out what's going on in public everywhere we go at all times? No. But where do we have a safe place to express that? So if that's at a coffee shop, if that's on a walk from the studio to the coffee shop, if that's at a gas station pumping gas, I just try to be honest and authentic. But it is a lot of work always holding space. for people.
Yeah. There's so many questions I have for you. I know you have some stories that I want you to share. We're going to talk about Vedic knowledge. We're going to talk about the story with your son where you were walking down the road there. You told me this before, and I think it's a great story. And a friendly stranger came by and gave you a wonderful compliment. There's so many things I want to talk about. Before we get to that, let's jump to the difference between pranayama and breathwork. So for people who aren't aware, can you give us a quick summary there of what the difference is?
Yeah, well, breathwork is very popular nowadays. It's everywhere. There's going to be different forms of breathwork. It's all branded variations of pranayama, though. So pranayama stems from the yogic tradition. And in this yogic tradition, pranayama has been around for thousands and thousands of years. Pranayama and meditation are the oldest practices that come along with this ancient Vedic knowledge. When I say practices, so what people know yoga generally as postures, that's fairly new. You could trace it back to roughly 12th century, 11th century, 10th century, whereas pranayama has been around for a long time. Breathwork is, I guess the best way to say it is classify as contemporary breathwork and traditional breathwork, right? Traditional breathwork being pranayama. Contemporary, new, modern breathwork is, like, I guess you could say it is supervised conscious hyperventilation. And that is not like throwing shade at it at all, but it is, you're like purposely working the breath without a precision and without a like very strict strategy behind it. Like, think when you go to the gym, you know, to get the most out of your workout, there has to be a strategy behind it. Like, how many sets are you going to do? How many reps are you going to do? Are you going to squeeze the bicep when you're at the peak? And then are you going to go slow as you retract the muscle group? Are you thinking about the muscle group as you're squeezing it? So there's so much with pranayama, there's so much strategy and methodology behind it. And when I say consciously administered hyperventilation, I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just mouth breathing. It's going with it. It's flowing with it fast. There's no regulation and restraint over the movement of the breath. And so pranayama is, like, if anyone listening has ever heard of pranayama before, pranayama, it means like the science of breathing, you could say. And if you've been studying long enough, you'll learn that it's the science of pneumatics, the science of pressure regulation within the system, and how you can use your inhalation and exhalation to modulate pressure in the body. So that's the best way to say it.
Cool.
So there are hundreds of different breathing patterns. Each breathing pattern has 20, 30 different variations. So that means in general, there's roughly thousands of different breathing patterns. So pranayama has sequences, different breathing patterns. The patterns can be put together into sequences, and they can be administered as like a prescription for a person. So if you have like sleep apnea, you have chronic snoring, COPD, respiratory illnesses of any kind. If you're an athlete looking to improve your breathing, there's different prescriptions that can be specified to the individual. So that's like kind of the difference between pranayama and breathwork.
Thanks, dude. And I love that. When I did your teacher training, that was one of my favorite parts, on learning and understanding the idea of prescribing breath, like the different patterns for specific issues or ailments or challenges that people are going through. And I remember learning about that, being like, where does this come from? Like, where is this idea? Like, how does someone figure that out? Like, so from your understanding, where do the specific patterns come from that can deal with specifically certain issues? Like, how does that work? How do those two connect?
Well, it comes from the scriptures, like the ancient Vedic scriptures. And then the scriptures are highly philosophical. So they require a great level of comprehension and reasonability in a person's mind to decipher what's being spoken of. And then lots of administering it upon yourself, feeling the effects of it and understanding the effects of it. So there's going to be codified descriptions of practices. And then there is going to be described benefits And then there is the individual who has to step in and start to practice it and go through long form practice and understand, like, what are the effects? What's happening to me? The path of Hinduism and like the path of the Vedic path is not a path of like blind faith. It's a path of like, this creates this, this will do this. Scrutinize it. Here are tools to scrutinize it to get to the highest level of inner clarity that you can get, and then determine whether it's truthful for you and right for you or not. It's beautiful, right? It's humble. It's very humble. So,
awesome.
So how do these breathing patterns come to form, through passed down through guru upon guru, passed down through scripture and so forth?
Cool. So for somebody listening to this, you mentioned Hinduism and the Vedic scriptures. Is breathwork or pranayama something that someone who is Jewish or someone who is Catholic or of a different religion can practice? Does it conflict? Because I know a lot of people I've mentioned breathwork before, and I even have a couple of friends, and they won't participate in it because they feel it goes against their religion. So what do you say to that, and how do you approach that with people?
Yeah, I think that it's for everybody, but not everybody is willing to accept it. Just like water is the best thing you can drink, but a lot of people would prefer to have coconut water and pop and soda and kombucha, right? So
yeah,
there's no way that you could really scrutinize and say pranayama is bad for you because there is no hyperventilation involved. There is no deities. If you're Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, where you are concerned that you're summoning something, right? So pranayama is highly beneficial if you're Christian, because if you're a Christian, Jewish, or Muslim, it's going to get you to a state of greater clarity inwardly through the breath, through the inner calmness, through the inner peace. You're invoking peace and calm and steadiness that you can have a deeper, straighter, most sincere connection to your God. So it's highly beneficial to anyone and everyone. It's the ancient scientific path to inner evolution and consciousness evolution and development, right? So people should see it as I don't want to say should, but they could really benefit from seeing it as a scientific process.
Amazing.
Old world scientific process.
Say that again.
Old world scientific process.
Beautiful. One of my favorite aspects of being in breathwork classes with you is at the end where you take time to hear stories of what people experienced and what they went through. Almost like dreams or very personal spiritual experiences that people have. I've had many myself. I never see colors, but you see some people have shared stories of they seeing colors, and people, loved ones, speaking messages to them. Have you ever had, in your experience of all the classes you've hosted and facilitated, where people have had deeply religious experiences after breathwork, or seen their deity, or seen something about their faith that has brought them closer to their faith?
Yeah, without a doubt. Almost every time, if a person is to report back on something, usually you're moving through the traumas and stories of your life that you've kind of deeply repressed within yourself, and those get unraveled and become free, and you become lighter. And as you become lighter, the deeper connection to the deeper spiritual voice within you becomes clear, right? So it's like you come into a house and you look at it and it's dirty, and you know the potential of it. And you know, before you can start like remodeling it and bringing in the furniture, you got to do a deep clean. So that's kind of with our psyche and with just the way our physiology is. It's so bogged down by the food we eat, by the things we think, and what we've come into contact over the years, and the consistent repetitive patterning that we've placed this physiology upon. Once that's all cleared, then all the pranayama starts to, the breath, it starts to create greater connection to the voice, and that is the voice within you. And so people have had visions of Jesus being beside them. This one fellow one time, this one fellow one time, I said, "How was it for you? What came up for you?" And he said, "God was right beside me." I said, "Elaborate." He said, "Well, you smelled like rainwater and leather." And I said, "Interesting." Yeah. And he said I just felt so safe. And there was this voice of keep going, don't give up. Now, this individual has been plagued with lots of difficulties in their life, difficulties that maybe most people would check out of, and physical mobility issues. And so, when you can get something that's quite inspiring that can overshadow the everyday difficulties you're facing, it's pretty powerful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man.
There's lots of other stories too.
I'm sure. I mean, I've had my own, and one of the things I've always appreciated about coming out of breathwork is you keeping the lights low and just kind of keeping that sort of just your focus inwards a bit to honor the experience. And it feels so many times I've come out of a breathwork session and I'm like, oh, I'm totally here. I'm like, I didn't go anywhere. I'm totally fine. And then, you say, roll over and get up. And then I'm like, oh, I was like in a dream state. Like it's almost the transition between the two is so smooth that sometimes I don't know how far or how deep I've gone. And then when coming out, I feel it, and it's a beautiful coming home experience for me, of grounding and of peace and of centeredness, of a reset, that I love. And I think it's a beautiful practice to simply breathe consciously and with your, distinct and deliberate direction of how to breathe, and breath retentions as well, which is, it's this whole experience that I've really enjoyed. And I've just scratched the surface with a bit of teacher training with you. And I really appreciate that as well. I wanted to ask you about the very beginning, the breath of life. Mm-hmm. When a child first comes into this world, they breathe in that oxygen, and that is also prana. So can you talk to us about prana? What is prana, and what's the specialty of prana?
It's a great question. That's a very in-depth question. I will be honest, it's not a question that could be answered in 5 minutes. But with that being said, I think it's important to get our feet in the door. So I'm going to be vague, but I'm going to be accessible at the same time, which can leave room for a person to walk. Okay. Let's look at prana. There's many ways to look at the word, and there's many distinctions of the individual word and designations that can be applied to it. But let's just look at it as life, vital air, or life force. Okay. So how could a person benefit from vital air, or how could they benefit from something that is their life force, or how could they benefit from something that could give them life? Well, we wouldn't be reaching for the coffee in the morning if we felt like we had enough life. We wouldn't be doing a lot of the reaching that we do in life if we had life, if that makes sense. So prana is... Our breath, first and foremost, is our way of leveraging energy in this life. So we think it comes from food. So we eat all this healthy food. We drink healthy drinks. Hopefully we eat healthy food. Hopefully we drink healthy drinks, water, clean, non-processed food. But still, breath is king. It reigns supreme. Breath is responsible for everything we do. It guides everything we do in this body. Everything we do in this body requires leveraging of air. For instance, think about when you go to the washroom. If you were to put a cup up to your mouth and you were to put water in your mouth and then swallow that water, your inhale allows that water to come into your mouth, and then that inhale, again, a secondary inhale, facilitates the swallowing of the air moving down into your tummy. As I'm speaking right now, I'm leveraging my diaphragm in a way to exhale, and that exhale, I'm placing onto that exhale audible tones that are forming this languaging. So everything has to do with breath. Now, with that being said, we are depleting our life force every day as we express ourselves. Every action has a consequence. So we're burning fuel every single day. So it's important that we have quality breath. So working with individuals who have respiratory illness, for instance, COPD, let's say. When a person has shallow breathing, they're more susceptible to unconsciousness. They're more susceptible to hopelessness. So think of the cognitive agencies not working as efficient, the physiology not working as efficient as it could. So it's like we're like a computer and a machine, and it starts to bog down when it doesn't have its fuel source. And so shallow breathing creates more carbon monoxide buildup in the body. Best way to think of it is when you're sleeping in your room at night, you've got the windows closed, you got the bedroom closed, you wake up in the middle of the night, gasping for a drink of water. It just feels stale, the air in the room. You open up that window, you get back to sleep, you feel better. That stale air, if we breathe shallow, it's the same thing like this house of our body. Stale air builds up and it's like a poison. And if we allow ourselves to live in that poisonous state, we have low life, low energy. And so we open the windows of the nose, we get fresh air moving in. It recirculates the air, re-stimulates us. You'll notice you'll have more vital thoughts. You'll have greater retention of images and information you're experiencing in the moment. You'll be able to recall information of your past, your memories. So when people begin a pranayama practice, a conscious breathing practice, they start to notice that they're remembering their dreams when they go to bed at night. They're remembering things that have happened in their past. Sometimes I take people on journeys through yoga therapy where they're looking to recover themselves. And, we'll go through a 30 or 60-day process. And about 30 days into it, every week they're getting further and further into their memory database. So they'll journal, they'll send me journals and say, I remember this that came up a couple years ago. And as we get further into the 30-day mark, they're starting to talk about things that have happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, things that they said. And when we had started working with each other, I have bad memory. I can't remember things. I can't remember what is going on in my life. I'm always feeling flustered. So there's a huge sharpening that's occurring, and it's through this intake of prana. It's this increase of life that they're offering and providing themselves. That makes sense.
Amazing, dude. Thank you for that. There's so many things I want to explore with you, but I also want to make sure that I get to some of my favorite stories that I want you to share. Let's switch gears here to authenticity, integrity. You were sharing with me the other day a wonderful story. I want you to speak about the importance of authenticity for you, and also the story. I'd love for you to tell the story about you walking with your son there, because I thought that was a beautiful story as well. So could you share a bit about authenticity, the role it has and how important it is for you and why that's important? And then also the fun story with your son there that you had recently.
Yeah. Authenticity is important for me because for so long in my life, I believe I lived inauthentic. And I think we all live inauthentic. We put on a mask to really fit in. And so it's so important to just be me. I don't want to live this life and look back and think to myself, like, was I real? Was I honest? Did I share my emotions? Did I tell people how I felt? What if I was to pass away tomorrow? Does my wife know who I really am and what really was on my heart? Do my boys know who I am and what I hope for them in this life? Being authentic is just allowing the book to be true and honest of you. And it's a living book, and if it's not authentic, it's not a living book. So that's the big thing with authenticity for me is we don't got long. You never know, you don't know what your time frame on this planet is. We're given roughly 10 decades and hopefully we can, take up those decades. But you never know. So the least we could do is be authentic. And I've spent so much time with the elderly. The same theme always arises. And that is, I wish I wasn't so concerned with what people thought of me. And so if we're going to get to the end years of our lives, and that's going to be one of the most prominent things that comes up for us, like, I just wish that I wasn't so concerned with what people thought of me. And if we were able to review our whole memory database from age 5 up until that point where you're at that last dawn of your life, and predominantly in your life, more than anything, you were concerned with what people thought of you, you'd want to do it all over again just to get it right. Integrity is, you said integrity?
Yeah. If you want to chat about that as well. I mean, I think they're very closely related.
They are. We don't need to go too deep into other than it's important to be a person of your word. It's important to have integrity. Integrity also is synonymous with honorable, being a person of honor, honoring the word of people, honoring people's wishes. These are really important things to me. I look at these things as virtues, and I believe that we can't acquire virtues in life. Like, look, we try to acquire wealth in life. We try to acquire assets, but really we should be trying to acquire virtues. And how can we acquire virtues if we don't have manners? And these are like fundamental aspects to manners, is authenticity and integrity and so forth. Now, this kind of came up because my son, he's 9 years old, and I was having a talk with him, and I was saying, do you know what it means to be authentic? Yeah. Give me an example of what it means to be authentic. So he gave me an example. And I said, do you know what it means to be inauthentic? And he thought inauthentic was the same thing as authentic. So we went for a walk, my son and I, and we're walking to town where we live. It's a 5-kilometer walk, about an hour long. We're halfway through the walk, and I asked him, I said, do you know what it means to be authentic? Because he's going through this phase. He's 9 years old. He's looking in the mirror, checking himself out, making sure he's looking right and good and beautiful before he goes to class. And sometimes I'll say, you look beautiful. I know, Dad. I know he's looking in the mirror for gratification, right? This is the thing, is when you open your mind to the difficulties of life, you're always thinking like, do I need to help everyone, right? You got to pull it back. Anyways, we're having a talk, and I said to him, do you know what it means to be authentic? Do you know what it means to be inauthentic? He wasn't really listening when I was describing what it means to be authentic. He was listening. He's a 9-year-old boy. And so I started to describe to him what it looks like for someone who is listening, like someone who's interested in learning. I said, are you interested in learning? He said, yeah, I am. And I said, I'm going to show you right now the mannerisms and expressions of a person who's interested in learning. So as I start to do that, a man rides by on his bike, does a little U-turn, comes up behind us, excuse me. I just want to say that, son, you have an amazing father. I see him playing soccer with you every day up on that field over there. And I just want to say you are so lucky. Keep being you and just trust what he's trying to teach you. These are really important things. He was just saying, like, I see this father with this son. Trust this. Trust what he's sharing with you. And I looked at him, and I've had one moment like this before in my life with him. And I said to him, that was God. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, that was God. That was God showing up in the moment and saying, what we're doing here is authentic. What we're doing right here is valuable. What we're doing here is true. And he had a smile on his face, and it hit home. I'll go back to another story. You're going to love this one too. My son this is when he was about 4. We're in the parking lot of Walmart. It's about 6 p.m. It's pouring rain. He's in the back seat. My wife is beside me. I'm driving. We're just parked. We're going to go into Walmart. Face right up here beside me. And he says, Dad, why do I have different color hair than you and Mom? We have dark hair. He has blonde hair. And my wife, Teresa, said, God decided to give you blonde hair. And he said, who's God? And I looked at him. I said, do you want to learn about God? And he said, yeah. Knock, knock, knock on the window right beside me. I look, there's this little Indian lady. She's got roses in her hand, pouring rain. I do the window down. I go, can I help you? And she goes, I just wanted to give you a rose. And she gives us a rose through the car window. I said, ma'am, thank you so much. Hariom, which means like great blessings. And can I give you some money? And she says, no, it's okay. And so the window goes up. I have a rose in my hand and I go, that was God. And he goes, that was God? And I go, no, that wasn't God, but that was God. God manifested through this person. And so I get out of the car and I look, I can't find this lady anywhere. Like I can't, I'm looking all around the parking lot. I believe when we live authentic, when we are being calm and just gentle and we are genuinely in our heart, we are creating space for these moments to arise for us. We become like a magnet for these moments to arise where God can show up and say, I love you. Keep going. Keep believing. Oh gosh, it hits me,
I
these
love that, man.
ideas.
I love that. I think that's beautiful, and what a beautiful message. And that's something that I love to leave people with is, and I want to explore a little bit more with you here, because I think that's really what I want to leave people with from this conversation, is getting to that place where God or the divine, however they see that in their life, speaks to them, and it appears and works in their life more and more. So for you working with people, or for your personal advice or what you would share with people, how do you create more of that space for those experiences and for that interaction with God to come into your life at a deeper and richer level? What are the steps? How do you guide people to create that more in their life?
Well, I can only offer people what I do for myself. So I know that by being in a peaceful state, being calm, and being in a graceful, gentle state where I'm not ambitious about what I can mine or take from the world, what I can acquire. In the yogic path, we call it worldliness. So like not trying to mine from worldliness and take more and more from the world, but retreat in and just find this inner serenity, this inner tranquility. I know from that place, these moments arise. So I try to create that for people in a way that I've created it for myself through meditation, contemplative study, and pranayama, which is cleaning. Pranayama cleans the system out. Like I said, like you walk into a house and it's dirty, you know what the potential is. Pranayama cleans the system out. It fast tracks you to the meditative state. And meditation's powerful. Just for if people are wondering what is meditation, a really brief introduction and understanding of it is meditation means like a positive disassociation from your body and your identity and from the world. And you do this every night when you go to bed and you start dreaming. When you start dreaming, you're disassociated in a positive way because you've consented to it. You lay down in a safe space, your bed. And in that space, when you go to bed and you start dreaming, you forget about your body, you forget about your identity, you forget about the world and the obligations you have in this world. And you're in this state of positive disassociation, we could call it. That's meditation. And so the doctor, you go to the doctor and something's going on with you. They're going to prescribe you whatever medication you need, but then they're always going to say the same thing: get a good night's rest. Go to bed and get a good night's rest. And that's because when you go and you get a good night's rest, your body is slowing down exponentially, and growth factors and healing hormones are being released in your body to support and facilitate healing. So if you can facilitate that, and you can bring that in, not just when you're sleeping, but also in your waking state, you're just increasing your chances of a healthier life. So that's like a brief introduction to meditation. So when people come to the studio, I'm trying to create a safe space where they can feel at home. They can feel comfortable to go into an hour practice. They can let go of their obligations. They can let go of the constraints that they have and the burdens they have in their life, and just enter into themselves. And every time, like clockwork, people always report back the same thing. It feels so nice to take a break for myself. And they'll have visions and so forth like that. But that's the goal, is to just get them into an experience of peace. They can say to themselves, that was nice. And they can start to contemplate, like, how can I incorporate that into my life more?
I love that, Engel. I want to ask you a little bit about that incorporation process, but I also want to invite our paying members of timehascome.com, our sovereign creators. I know some of them have questions, and I wanted to ask Karen Howells. She has a question. So while Karen is setting up her system and raising her hand for the live call-in feature, we're going to have her up on stage here for her question about spiritual mysteries. So Karen, if you're still there, please click the live call-in button, and we'll get to your question. But before we do there, while Karen's doing that, Engel, I wanted to ask you about that implementation process. Maybe you could share with for people listening, some of the practices or ideas or suggestions that you give people. And I'll use myself as an example there. I'm stressed. I'm feeling a lot of pressure. Is there a specific breath pattern that you can suggest or what's the word? Diagnose me with a prescription. That's the word I was looking for. A prescription for stress, or for somebody that is looking to integrate a more conscious breathing practice into their life, that while they're just driving, do you suggest something else? What would you say to that?
I would say that I'm interested in giving you like the full plan. You know, I know that if you come to me and you say, this is going on with me, I'm feeling, I got indigestion, I'm not sleeping at night, I'm frustrated about my finances, my partner and I have lost the spark, but I love her, we've got kids. I know I know I can't just give you one breathing pattern and there we're going to fix it. It's you got to change the pattern that you're in needs to change. And this is a habit people have when they will be going through a season of difficulty, and they'll say, well, okay, I'm going to incorporate mindfulness and I'm going to incorporate some wellness tools. Like I'm going to maybe do a cold shower with my hot shower in the morning. And instead of having coffee, I'll have tea. So they pepper things into a pattern that's already not serving them. And so we have to reshape the pattern, right? So I'll say to people like, okay, this breathing pattern is going to be ideal for you. Practice this twice. It depends on also what's going on with them. So if it's like very serious, practice this for 5 minutes, 4 times a day. If it's moderate, I'll say practice this twice a day for 10 minutes. It all depends on the person's obligations and situations. I'll also say get to bed at least this time. Try to get this much sleep. Try to cut out these type of foods. Try to incorporate these type of foods. Start reading these type of books. Cut out screen time by this much. So it's a whole process, you know. But breath is the entry point because we're breathing every day of our life. And that's a really important thing to get. So I'll say, start with the breathing. And I have a free course that I always give people. It's 20 minutes. It's a practice that they can jump into. It's easy. It's a guided audio. And the prescription is 20-minute practice for 30 days. And I believe that it will just create a lot of repair in their lives. But ultimately, if our life is not working, we need to shift how we are living our life. It's pretty straightforward.
Amen. Thank you for that. We're going to bring Karen up on stage here, and she's going to ask her question about mysteries. So welcome, Karen. We can bring her up on stage.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Karen.
And lovely to see you all. Hello, Engel. My name's Karen Howells. I'm coming to you from Calgary, Alberta. This week, our Tuesday Creations group had the topic of mysteries on Graham's Time Has Come community, and it got me thinking about mysteries in general. And so my question for you is, I'd love to hear your insights on spiritual mysteries or mysteries of the universe that you find most intriguing.
Yeah. Well, good to see you. I would say a mystery that is quite compelling that I think has the capacity to change the way people's brains function. Just the mere, just sitting with it even for half an hour can change the way your brain operates is reincarnation. The idea, even you don't even have to believe in it, but if you were to investigate what it means and the implications of it, if it's true, that is really interesting. Now you could type in reincarnation science journals on Google and you'll come up with a lot of interesting things, studies that have been conducted on reincarnation. So roughly speaking, each individual has, what is it? I forget the statistics, but we have a lot of ancestors behind each of us, physical ancestors. Let me pull something up for you right now, just so we can get to the root of this, because this is really interesting. Okay.
Are you pulling up a stat, Engel, like a
just in my notes here. So our ancestors increase exponentially the further back we look. 20 generations behind you, Karen, roughly 400 years, is roughly 1 million ancestors. 40 generations, roughly 800 years, gives us 1 trillion ancestors behind you. 50 generations gives 1 quadrillion. So I would like to think, Karen, that you didn't begin just 20 generations ago or just 15 generations ago, that there has been a lot at play to get you here where you are. So if let's just say that there are a quadrillion ancestors standing behind you, okay? Imagine if you had reincarnated trillions of times, over and over and over again. We're given 10 decades every time. There's 8 billion people on this planet right now. If we were to look at how many people have been on this planet from, let's say, the 1800s till now, it would far exceed 8 billion. So a lot of people, they just keep coming back and coming back and coming back. Why do we keep coming back? Why do we keep reincarnating? What are we supposed to get out of this experience? So as yogis, we believe that we are born as addicts. We are addicted to worldliness. We love it so much. We get to our deathbed and we say to our wife and our children, I wish I had 5 more minutes with you. I wish I had just 10 more years with you. I love you so much. And then we die and God goes, I love you. And you love your people. You love humanity so much. You love the world so much. I'm sending you right back. I want you to have that experience again because I love you so much. And so the scriptures tell us that if you can come to a state of such transcendence, like Jesus on the cross, where he's saying, I'm not your son, mom. That's your son right there. And he's going to be with the Father. He was in such a high level of character that he believed fully who he was. He knew who he was. That there's no coming back. Well, I know the Christians believe he'll come back, and I'm not debating that at all. But I'm using it as an analogy that there is a way to go what as yogis we call moksha. So it's freedom from transmigration, freedom from samsara. Samsara means repetitive history, being born over and over and over and over again, like Groundhog Day. So that would be a mystery, I would say, that's quite interesting.
Thank you, Karen, for that question.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Nice to see you too.
Awesome. I have a question here from Linda Jane Brown. She couldn't make it here today, but she gave me permission to ask this question. And she says, thank you, Engel, for joining us. My question is about sharing the wisdom of the Vedic knowledge and your intuitive gift. What is the fundamental difference between learned Vedic knowledge and your intuitive gift for it? And she says, thank you so much for sharing your time and gifts with us.
That's a great question. Hello. So I would say the difference between intuitive Vedic knowledge and learned Vedic knowledge is going to be learning through the scripture, which is something that I've done myself and something that I study every single day. I'm looking at the Samaveda, the Rig Veda. I'm looking at all of the different scriptures I have in front of me right now. The intuitive aspect is when you get to such a high level of authenticity and clarity where you're no longer trying to fit in. There's wafting loads of information that just bubble in your mind because your mind is not burdened by the constraints of everyday social hierarchical living, that in your dreams, in your everyday life, there's aha moments and epiphany moments, and it all starts to get clear. The more clear we get, the clearer as yogis, we believe our past lives get. So as yogis, we don't remember like what our hair color was in our past life. We don't, maybe some do. I'm not going to speak for everyone. We don't remember what age we died at. We don't remember these very specifics, but we remember the merits that we have acquired in our past lives that are coming with us into this next life. So if you live good, there's going to be the predominance of merits and demerits. And if you have the predominance of demerits in this life, you're probably going to be born into a difficult life. So, but as you clear out and remove your karmas, you get clear, the vision becomes clear. And this is the case for me. So as I've had the audacity to break the mold within myself and to break myself out of my prison, I've had a clear connection to my past lives. And I feel grateful. And sometimes I get sidetracked. I'm a father of 3 boys and live in this world too, like everyone else. And I get distracted by the things sometimes, but I do stay quite committed and disciplined to what we were talking about this earlier, Graham, like just before this began. It's staying true to the path of grace, faith, authenticity, transparency, and that creates renewal. And that renewal just happens to be your true authentic self, like your true Atman self, soul self, we call it.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much, man, for sharing all this. There's still more questions I have. We're going to wrap this portion of the podcast up that everyone will be watching the replay on online. Right now, this is a live recording. I have more questions. I want to talk to you about non-dualism. I want to talk to you about doing no harm. I know you're a vegetarian. I think you still have some cheeses and milk sometimes, but you don't eat meat. Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then also take many of your questions as well as members of timehascome.com in the after party. But for right now, I want to thank Engel for being on the podcast. For those people that have are watching that want to learn more, you can check out the show notes below and find out more about Engel. And as a tradition, I always ask my guests a magic painting question to end the podcast. Now, I know I asked you this question before, the first time we did the podcast many years ago. You can update your answer if you feel inspired, or if you want to reshare the same one. I don't know if you even remember your answer, but I'm going to ask you the question again because it's kind of a tradition here, and I really like the opportunity just to learn from my guests their answer to this question. So the question goes, Engel, if you had on your wall in your office there and in a room in your house that was very special for you, a magic painting that whenever you looked at it, you could feel any type of feeling you wanted to feel to any degree that you would want to feel it, what feeling would you choose, and what would be on your painting to represent that?
I love this. It's a great question. I'm glad you're still going with it.
It's a fun one.
Yeah, it is. The feeling I would like to have is peace. And that is the peace of serenity and belonging and contentment. Like there's no ambition for me to be doing anything or be anywhere. And it would be almost the same. It would be under a tree. I could hear the soft, subtle motion of wind moving through the tree, autumn colors, the sun just beginning to set, beautiful cotton candy sky. I can just smell this beautiful, crisp, but also grass like hay smell in the air. Yeah, it's, thank you for bringing me there. Actually, I'm there right now.
That's why I asked the question. And the reason I want to ask it as well is because I want to get a taste of it. And for all the listeners as well, if someone's never felt this type of peace before, Engel, the way that you're describing it, how would you explain it feels in your body?
Good question. It feels like everything's on time, that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. There's such a divine state of forgetfulness that overcomes you. And it's almost like a state of divine dementia, we could call it. You're not aware of anything around you. It's like a belonging, a home. Yeah.
What is it? Is it in your entire body? Is it a feeling of warmth? Do you feel love? Is it a deep peace in your belly? Where is the emotions and the sensations in your body?
I feel it in my mind and in the back of my eyes. I feel my eyes softening. I feel my skin softening. I feel it in my whole body. I feel no emotional pulse of excitement or exhilaration, just like a softness, like this is where I'm supposed to be. And so it's not an intellectual experience. It's quite literally a feeling, like a full body sensation coursing through me.
Beautiful, dude. I love it, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's
great.
Thank you. I love this question so much. And I hope one day, Engel, you get to have that painting in your house or just live it. I know you pretty much do live it already, but in the way that your picture describes, I think we talked about this before. And I think you had a picture on your phone of something that was very, very close to that magic painting. So thank you, Engel, for being on the show. Thank you for sharing all that you did. For those, like I said, who are interested in learning more about Engel, he does have online sessions as well as in-person sessions on Qualicum Beach there with his yoga studio, Yoga Grace, and online trainings as well, like I took with Engel. If you're interested in learning pranayama, you can do one of his breathwork or his pranayama trainings. To all that information you can find in the links below. Engel, thank you so much for being on the show. Any last words you want to share with people before we wrap up here and then head on over to the after party? Yeah, I love you. Thanks for having me here. And everybody that is listening, if you haven't heard that in a while, I love you as well. It's a different type of love. It's a love that cares about you and is cheering and rooting for the best version, most healthiest version of you to succeed.
Believe in yourself. I don't even know you, and I do believe in you. You can make it work. So just believe in yourself.
I got a question for you. Why'd you stay to the end? Most people only listen to the first 15, 20% of a podcast, but you listened all the way through, which puts you in the top 10, 15% of people that listen to podcasts. So what was it? Maybe you have a question. Maybe there's something you're working on. Maybe there's a fascinating insight that you have. I would love to hear it. That's why I built timehascome.com as a community for you to share your insights and your questions. After the podcast, we launch into the after party with my guests, and you get a chance to ask your question, continue the conversation, learn more, and dig deeper into the topics covered. So if that sounds interesting to you, head on over to timehascome.com and leave a comment. Share with me what you found interesting, insightful, a question you have. And if you want to join for my next podcast recording and ask your question live to my guest, sign up, become a paying member. I'd love to have you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.